We're going to make a clipping mask with some text today, and so I'm going to start off by creating a new, and in Photoshop CC, you have these already presets. We can make our own, but I already have one, portrait 8 by 10. I want to show you something because right now this is going to be portrait orientation, but I really want it to be landscape. But I'm going to show you once you've created it how to change it if necessary. So I hit create, and now it's obviously in portrait mode. What I want to do is I'm going to go to image and then rotate image clockwise. Now you could have just remade it. That's one way of doing it. Let's say that I had my my menus over here, my palette kind of messed up, so that yours looks like mine. I'm going to go to Window and Workspace and Reset Essentials. Now mine has this Learning tab here. I'm just going to minimize that so that we have basically everything that we need. I'm going to close this tab too, so it's not confusing. I am going to use this now. So I've got a background layer that's opaque and it's white, but I'm going to bring in an image here. So I'm going to File, and I'm going to place embedded. That way it's in the file, and I have one here that I shot on the way to work one day, and we'll use that. So I'm going to place that in. Now it's a little bit too big or too small, and so what I want to do is, if you have an older copy of Photoshop, you're going to need to hold the shift key down and grab one of these corner nodes and drag up, and that's going to constrain the proportions. Both proportions are going to change, but you have to hold the shift key down. In the newer Creative Cloud, you don't have to hold the shift key down, but if you want it to resize from the middle, you can hold the Alt key down, and the Alt key, you can see that it's resizing in all 4 directions. So I'm just going to make sure that it's bigger than my canvas right at the moment. Okay, then what we want to do is put some text in. So we just go click on our text tool, and I'm going to come out here. I'm going to choose black for the color. If I don't choose that right now, that's no big deal, but I can choose it over here, not down here for text. When you click on the text menu, you get a whole nother menu up here that's just text specific, and so you'll want to change the color right here. So if I click on it, it's going to bring up a color picker, and I can change it to whatever color. Maybe I'll change it to white for right now. It really won't make any difference. So I'm going to click on it, and we'll go morning. Let's say that this was going to be some sort of inspirational poster or something. Now I want to change the font at the moment. I like Centaur. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit, but sometimes this effect works a little bit better if your text is a little thicker. So I'm going to change it to my standby as Impact, because Impact's a nice thick font. And then when I'm done, I can hit check mark. Now I can go to my move tool, or I can hit just V on the keyboard, and I can move it around. Now let's say that I want this a little bit bigger. I can do a couple of different ways. I can double click on the T right here. That's going to bring back that menu again, and I can go here and I can change the font's size and presets, or I can come in here and type it. And so let's say I want it to be 150 point, or I could make it 151 points. That's a little bit too big. I'm going to go back and double click on that, or I can come right to the letter T, and I can left click and drag right and left, and that will resize my text. I can hit check mark, and it resizes. One other way you can do it, and there's only 18 different ways to do everything in Photoshop, is that I can just click on Control T, or I could go up to edit, and I could do transform, but again, free transform is Control T. So I hit Control T, and with that layer selected, now I can grab this and drag it however big I want. So I'm going to make it really big at the moment, and so now if I want to, usually you don't want to do this because the font is basically in the right proportion to make it look right. But I can grab this center node. If you're using an old version, if you just drag it, it's going to change the vertical dimension, not the horizontal dimension. But if I want to do it in the new Creative Cloud, I want to hold the Shift key, and that only allows me to move this. So for the moment, I'm going to not do anything. I'll just hit OK. Now, to do this clipping mask is to put this, I want this picture in this text, and I want the picture to be gone. So what I need to do is I need to drag my text layer underneath my picture. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, and remember, probably if you've been using Photoshop, this is way old, but almost on any other program, left click is select, right click is more options. So I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to see what I did was I right clicked right here on the picture. There's really these hidden buttons here. Like I double clicked on the T to bring up the text menu. If I right click here, I get one type of menu. If I right click over here, I get another type of menu. If I double click on the word, I can change the layer name. So there's really three different little buttons here that are kind of hidden. So I'm going to right click out in the gray area, and then I'm going to go to create clipping mask, and boom. What it does is it ties these two layers together, and now it's basically a mask. And so what I want to do now is let's say that I want to move this around. I want to change where the picture is, and so you can see I'm kind of clipping off, I'm moving it off the canvas, but that doesn't make any difference because I want it to be just in this picture. So I can move this up and down, or I can click on the text, and I can move the text independently. Now if I want to move them both, let's say that I want to move them down together, then I'm going to hold the Shift key in, select both layers. I could, if I wanted to, I could link them together, but holding Shift down, I select both layers, and now they're both going to move together. Now also, while I have them together, I can hit Control T, which is transform, or I could go back up to edit and free transform, and let's say that I want to resize it. So I could resize this and put it down wherever I wanted to. Now I'm going to bring it back up so we can see it easily. Control plus so we can see the whole thing a little bit better even yet. And I get the check mark to say that I'm done with the transformation. Now I can do a couple of other things. I can put some layer styles on this. So again, if I double click here, I'm going to rename I'm going to edit the text. So let's say I misspelled this, and I didn't, but if I just said Morgan, the nice thing about this is that it's able to be edited even once you've got it done. So I can double click here and make some changes just to the text and edit that. I can double click on the word. This is the layer naming, so I could double click on that and rename it whatever I wanted to. Right now it just takes on whatever you've typed. And then I can also go and double click out in the gray, and that's going to bring up layer styles palette. Now I can do the same thing. I could go to layer, and I never use this one, layer styles, and then I can choose whatever I want. But I think it seems like it's easier if I just double click here, brings up the layer styles, and then I can choose maybe, let's say, a stroke. And when I click on the stroke, if you're not familiar, if I click on the stroke, nothing appears to have happened. But if I click on the word stroke, again, there's another example of clicking in multiple places. Then it brings up a menu that's specific to stroke. And right now, why you couldn't see it was set to white. So I could choose a black stroke and hit OK. Then I can change, and you can see just a hairline. That's basically a 1 pixel out stroke. I can change that pull that out a little bit more. I could change it to whatever kind of color, and this is something I can edit later on, so I'm just going to hit OK. Maybe I'll put a little drop shadow. If I click on this, remember nothing seems to happen, but if I click on the word drop shadow, then it brings up that menu specific to it, and you can see now as I move the distance that I'm extending that drop shadow. I can also, right now it's like the light source is to the right, it's shining left, but I can change that to like the light source is up here in the upper right, and then the size is how fuzzy is that line, how diffuse is that light. Let me crank it out here a little bit further so you can see what happens when I change the size. So it's diffusing that shadow a little bit. I'm going to pull that back up in a little bit. And for this, for this next part, I'm going to change this to white, but I won't right at this minute. So I'll hit OK. Now, you can do all different kinds of neat kind of things, but again, remember, I'm only on the text layer, so I'm only moving the text. So if I want both of them to move, I want to hold Shift down, select both of them, and then I can move it. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. I hit Control T, and then I'll put it down here. Now, I don't know. I'm just going to, you can do whatever you want. You could put another image back here. You could put a solid color. You know, you could, this might be a good place where you'd write an inspirational quote or something. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this picture, that same picture back in. I'm going to hit Place Embedded, and again, find that picture. And it comes in on top. I'm going to, again, resize it a little bit, hold Alt down so that it draws from the center. And I can hit check mark, which is confirming that transformation. Now I'm going to drop this below both of these. And so now I've got a kind of a picture and a picture. So I can move that picture around, but let's say that now I wanted to change and pop this stroke out a little bit more. If you'll notice, you can see the effects. I could double click again and get into the layer styles, or I can just click on just the stroke and it brings up that stroke menu, and I'm going to change that to white. Maybe tone it down a little bit so it's just a little hairline. Move this out so you can see, so you can kind of see it on the fly. And I want to change, let's say, the font. So all of this stuff I'm showing you is something that you can edit down the road, so nothing is necessarily permanent. So I'm going to double click on the T, and I'm going to come up here and change the font. Now I can click here, and if I know what I want, I can go down through it, or I can type it in like I did it earlier. I typed in impact. I can also click one time in the window, and then I can use the arrow keys to just scroll down, and it automatically changes in the picture. I'm going to go back to Centaur because I kind of like that earlier. Now I'm going to hit check mark, and I apparently didn't do it. Let's try that again. I'll type it in, Centaur regular, and I must have hit the cancel button instead. So now I can hold the Shift key down again, select both of these, and I can only select one, and I can move this image around so I get maybe that morning sunrise, or I can hit Control T and I can just change the size of that image that's behind it. Now you can see that I kind of missed my word here, so I made it a little too small. I'm not going to be able to do that, but I can move this around. Like you can see the tree is kind of right on the M. Maybe that's what I want, maybe I don't. But again, the big thing is you bring in your picture that you want to put in your text, you put it above the text, then you right click on the picture and you'll go to create clipping mask. But in this case, if I wanted to get rid of it, I could just release it. So I've got all these different options. Hopefully that helps, and so that's what I'd like you to try as well for this assignment.